I'm gonna do one of these type me questionnaire thingies. Um, I don't know my type is, and I would like some help to figure it out. So here it goes. When working on a project, where do you place your emphasis? The process of putting it together, or the final product? Do you experiment with your perspectives to create ideas? When I work on a project, I think the most important thing is coming up with a great idea. And then working on it is also really crucial, and I like to get everything straight before I actually start working on it. And then when I start working on it, it can go in a totally different direction. So it could start like thinking that the ending is going to be a happy ending, and then the end is going to be like a totally sad ending. For example, when I write a book. But usually, when I work on a project, I know in my head that it's probably gonna have a totally different outcome. Um, but when I create ideas, I usually go for a really spontaneous idea that just appears in my head randomly, and I focus on it and see how it could get better and how could I improve it. Um, yeah, that's basically how I work on a project. I usually write stuff, and that comes as a spontaneous thing. When I work on something too much, I probably will quit on it or put it on a hiatus and probably not work again on it, or spend months working on it until I complete it, which is a very big accomplishment for me because I tend to get sick of projects pretty easily. I have this huge inspiration at the start, and then I just stop. Are you a realist? Are you more of a no nonsense type of person? I find these people like call bullshit on everything. Um, yes, I'm a realist. I don't like things that are unrealistic. I don't like unrealistic possibilities of the future. I try to be a realist as much as I can. Sometimes going into pessimism, but I tend to be a person who can see things as they really are and look at things a bit more objectively in that perspective. Um, would you say you make decisions quickly, or do you take a while coming to a conclusion because you hope you're not missing out some vital information that will change your mind? I take so much time to do this, to have it make a decision. As you can see, I've been studying MBTI for some time right now, and I still haven't come to a conclusion of which my type may be. I've been indecisive between so many types. I've changed my mind so many times. The more information I get, the more unsure I get that the more unsure I become about my type. So yeah. And in other circumstances, I also tend to take ages to decide. But sometimes after I decide, I just act impulsively and change my mind completely. So I don't really know. Most of my decisions are not really 100% sure. Do you ever experience nostalgia, for instance, being able to completely remember a mood of a past experience time? Yes, I'm pretty nostalgic, but I guess I look at nostalgia and I just look at memories and just I like looking back at memories and I like remembering things with exact detail, but I cannot remember how I felt at the time. I can remember dialogues, I can remember the exact moment, the exact outfit, sometimes the exact words. I just can't remember exactly how I felt because I feel like I'm detached from the person I used to be. Looking back at my childhood, I can't identify myself with the person I used to be. I used to be someone who was really confident, really vain. I guess I liked the attention, but at the same time, I was uncomfortable with the attention. I like attention because I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to be a singer, I wanted fame, I wanted a lot of those things. But at the same time, I was pretty shy and pretty. Um, I didn't easily in social situations. I usually would be cast out and would not interact much with people I didn't know. And I was pretty awkward in those situations. But yeah, I liked the attention. So, but right now, I hate attention so much. It's totally not for me. Um, but I'm not as shy. I guess I can talk to people. I still have that initial shyness with people I don't know, but I guess I've changed a bit over time. Are you the rebellious sort, the sort who rebels for no reason other than to rebel against authority? Um, Depends. If I don't really believe what this authority putting might be forcing onto me. For example, I had a teacher, a philosophy teacher, and he taught a bunch of other subjects, and one of them we had to do projects, and he didn't pose his idea on us. And when I disagreed, I would just stand up for myself and tell the teacher, yeah, I don't want to do that, and he let me do the project I wanted to do. And but in general, I think I tend to follow more the authority. I don't question it much because I know the consequences that might have on myself if I do rebel, and I don't want to have a negative. I don't want to have negative consequences. I avoid those consequences if they will if they're not worthy of. Let's just put it this way: if I don't think that getting into trouble is for something so small is worth it, I'm not gonna get into trouble. But if I think if I'm really in favor of the cause, I don't mind rebelling. When watching a film and critiquing it, do you critique it based on details in the film? For instance, on how you thought of a certain portion of it wasn't realistic, or something along those lines, or based on idea or point they were trying to get across, how well to get across. Um, I look at both perspectives. I look at for example, one thing I really focus on is character development, and the characters in their acting, the actors in their acting. That is something I really focus on in movies. And then I also focus on cinematography. And then in the plot, I see if the things make sense as well. I tend to look at the little aspects of the movie and then join them together and look at the big picture. But I prefer looking at the little aspects, and that's why some movies that many people look at it on its integrity and say, "Wow, this is amazing." I look at little details that made me not like the movie so much. But yeah. When debating with others, do you ever get the feeling or state, for that matter, that you can't see where your opponent is coming from? Um, yeah, I sometimes get that. Um, like I cannot identify with people that easily. Probably because when I was like 13, 14, I used to think I was misunderstood, feel like I was misunderstood. Most people wouldn't get me. I was very socially awkward, and I don't express my emotions too well. So I don't really know. I cannot understand people who can express their emotions so well, and it's really hard for me to put myself in someone else's position. So sometimes I cannot see where my opponent is coming from, especially if I find their arguments unrealistic and irrational. So I don't know, basically. Do you know the symbols in the world? Do you ever try to wrap the symbol back to the idea that you believe? Hmm. I think symbols for me, unless they have a special meaning to me or unless something really interests me and I try to analyze it in every possible way, symbols don't really mean much to me, no. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. This question's a bit hard. Are you hurt by criticisms? Do you get personally offended when people try to criticize you, or are you thick skinned? I used to be really affected, and I guess getting used to being affected to it, I now am kind of numb to it, and I don't really get affected, and I'm more affected by compliments. I don't know how to react to compliments. I usually react with sarcasm, but the criticism, I like it when it's constructive criticism. I think I learned how to use criticism to my advantage, and I actually like it. And yeah, say for example you're learning about cameras in school, would you be more inclined to go home right away and read the whole shitload on cameras so you feel confident in your knowledge of cameras? Or would you feel perfectly comfortable when the teacher calls on people to come try it out, just hop up there and start using it? I think a bit of both. When I'm interested in something, I tend to want to read everything I can find out about that certain thing. But then when the practical part comes, it's usually where I excel better. So I don't know, both. When you're out, do you worry about how people interpret any action you take? Do you feel sorry, question this? Um, I don't know. I mean, when I go out with friends, I sometimes interpret, I sometimes think what they might think of my actions. I ponder a lot about what I do. But when I go out, like for parties, I tend to be reckless and just want to get everything out and be a totally different person and just enjoy the moment. I think it depends on the circumstances and what my intention is when I go out. But when, for example, when I'm just with friends and chilling, I tend to be pretty laid back and not worry too much about how what I say or do might affect. And I'm pretty much a joker when I'm with my friends, so I don't feel like I have to change anything to satisfy anyone else's tastes. But yeah, if they like me, hey, just accept me for who I am. In the classroom setting, do you ever find yourself helping other people out with projects or homework when you see they're struggling? Do you do this to make yourself feel more comfortable? Yes, I do help a lot. It's more like I feel I feel useful when I do it. I like helping other people out. Um, I don't mind really. I think that if I know something and I can explain it to somebody, uh, I'd rather help them out than see them struggling and having to um, see the teacher explain the thing over and over again because someone else is not understanding it. So I'd rather help them out and see if we could actually advance more in the class. I tend to be pretty much a self learn. I can self teach myself a lot of things. So sometimes I don't really pay attention to class and just learn it by myself, unless it's something that I don't that doesn't interest me much. I have to pay attention to class, and usually that's harder. But yeah. Okay. Do you find yourself ranting to your friends about how a certain something could have been done way easier, or how someone went about doing something, anything like a project, work, etc., which was stupid, and you could have done it way better and in a more simple fashion? Sometimes, yes, I do that. Some people overcomplicate something, and I think they could do it in a simpler way, and I just pointed out, and people are giving me other arguments, and I'm like, okay, fine, sure, just give me my point of view, whatever. Um, how does your average day go in general? Okay, weekdays I usually get up before class, and then I go to class. Usually talk to my friends during, before, and after class. If it's a class I love, I pay attention. If not, then I'm distracted most of the time. Then I eat lunch usually in college with my friends. Stay in the afternoon if I have classes, or just stay with my friends as well. Then go home and usually stay on the internet until I go to sleep. And I sleep pretty late, and I eat dinner. Sometimes I cook, depends. On weekends, I don't do anything, or just visit my friends who are studying in other cities. But yeah. Okay, where was I? What things do you value the most? I value intelligence. I value honesty. Value justice. I think that people should be fair. I value friendship, creativity. What else do I value? Huh. I guess family. Family is very important to me as well. I value happiness. Yeah, I think that's it. What things regularly bug you? Stupidity. It bugs me so much. Ignorance as well. Uh, People who lie. Not, more like when someone's telling me, when someone is obviously pissed off at me, and I ask them, so what's wrong? Are you angry? And they are like, "Oh no, everything's fine," and I understand that everything isn't fine, and I'm pretty sure it isn't, but I try to get them to tell me, and they don't say anything. That really bugs me as well. Overly emotional people and overly dramatic people, that bugs me a lot because I cannot handle people crying around me. I can't. I don't know how to react. And I also don't like people being overly dramatic about their problems because Sometimes when you're having those problems, my thoughts themselves are already too hard on me. So yeah, I don't need to handle your problems as well, especially when you overreact about small things. People being reckless after being emotional, that bugs me a lot because then they come to me for advice. I tell them what they should do in the most objective way I can, and they screw it up and come back to me in tears, and I don't know what to do anymore. I just tell them, hey, I warned you. Those are the things that bug me the most. How do you evaluate people in general? I look at people and think, um, if they. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate people really. People I like and can get along with, it's hard to evaluate. I guess I evaluate on how I trust them and how much I can share information with them and how loyal I am to them and how loyal they are to me and how much they trust me. I think that's how I evaluate people that I like. People that I don't know too well, I'd probably judge on their culture and on their intelligence and on their decisions. I'd probably judge that on that. How do you arrive at your decisions? I think on the pros and cons. I think on what will benefit me more, what do I like more, and then I also think about future and also think about what I did in the past and went wrong, and I think about everything, every possible situation before I decide something. That's why I take ages to make a decision. What factor are you most likely to pay attention to when deciding on things? Possibly the outcome. I think of the outcome and I think about how it will benefit me. I think that's mostly it. Yeah. Any peculiarities that you have noticed about your personality? I think this is something that I that's probably been bugging me about my personality, and I can't come to a conclusion. It's that I'm pretty emotional about my own problems and issues, and I'm pretty concerned about people, but I cannot relate emotionally to these people sometimes. I'm very bad at showing, like, expressing myself, my emotions, uh, and expressing my thoughts and feelings in general. Um, Talking to people about my like a deep conversation, I only do it with really close friends, and that's saying a lot. And when it's like the times I cry the most are usually in movies, and that's in TV shows, and it feels like a release because I can empathize, I can feel empathy towards characters that don't exist in situations that I probably would never experience in my day-to-day life. But I cannot feel sad when something sad really happens to a friend of mine. Like I can try to feel sad and help her out, but deep down, I'm like empty. It's like it's blank, and like I feel sad when like a relative dies or when I don't see a friend for ages and other things. But like for example, in our prom, everyone was crying and things, and I would feel sad because it was coming to an end, my high school year, and I actually liked it. And I only cried at the very end when I started thinking, well, it's all over. And I didn't really cry much for the. I wasn't one of the first people to cry, which kind of shocked me because even guys who I know are um, pretty emotionless usually were crying, and I was pretty blank. But a lot of times I feel like I'm empty in terms of emotion, but only when it requires me to have an emotional reaction. Only that, only then. But yeah, that's what I noticed about my personality. And I also noticed that for someone who's pretty introverted, I'm pretty introverted. I think too much. I don't express much of what I think. I'm pretty sociable, and I like being with people a lot. But I also like being alone, which is a pretty contradictory thing, I think. Okay. Anything that makes you stand out from other people that you know. Most people I know are I don't know know. There, the people I usually hang out with are very different from me, and I like that because I wouldn't like hanging out with people who are exactly like me. I'd probably find that annoying. So I don't know. I don't really know what makes me stand out from people. Probably my sense of humor, my sarcasm. I don't know. What do you yourself think are your strengths and weaknesses? Strengths. I'm honest and loyal, and I help people a lot. I sometimes I'm self-sacrificing, I guess, but only when like I do help people in conflicts, but I try to take a more I try to look at both sides and see which side is right, and I join that side, which has gotten me into conflicts, even though both sides might be people who are friends of mine. And yeah, I'm also pretty ambitious. I and when there's something I really want, I am determined and I can go pursue with it. Um, I my weaknesses. Well, I start too many things and never finish, and my low self-esteem, my low self-confidence. I guess I find myself pretty annoying because I talk too much, and I don't know if people are interested or not in what I have to say. Yeah, these were my questions. I hope you can help me out.